Alright, jumping right in now. Departing upon the city which I came from on my journey to Rangiroa. This is actually already landing in Tahiti. Spent a night in Tahiti. It was weird to me that they were spraying the compartments where everyone was sitting in. So you could see the lady spraying that. That made me uncomfortable. They said they're spraying for this beetle that was not too good for Hawaii, and they're preventing that from entering Tahiti. So, um, yeah, I definitely covered up my face for that. You never know about those things, but that was weird. So there I was landing at Pahara, I think it was, the airport. But it's kind of cool because you just step out of the airplane. It was already very humid. I had my sweater on from the day, keeping it comfortable, but everyone was kind of stripping down, which was interesting. There's the airplane looking back, and landed quite at night. It was interesting to see, just I was kind of taken a little bit aback by the overgrown grass. I wasn't expecting that. You see a lot of um, you see a lot of brochures and media about these parts of the tropics, and it looks pretty pristine, and you can see a little construction up there in the top left. So a little bit you know of work to do here and there. You see the full moon. It's a pretty cool sight. um, the ground looks wet, but it's definitely not. It's definitely I think it's just because it's that humid. I thought the trash cans and some of the fixtures around everything was very interesting. That's like the one food court area. To the right's a gift shop. Ended up buying a hat there the next day because I left my hat accidentally on the seat for 5 minutes and it was gone. That was a big bummer. Some seats to the left there. Little cockroach. So doing the airport sleep thing. McDonald's. I thought that was kind of cool to see. Just their cultural take on an advertisement that people see. So you can see an interesting corridor there, just in front of the M on the other side of that walkway. I slept for the night. Walked up to that Air Tahiti hotel and tried to get a room, but it was sold out, which was fine. I actually asked him if there was a nice park to sleep in. She just shook her head and she didn't really know. And so it was a bit of a rough night, but it's what you got to do sometimes. And I thought it was kind of cool, but kind of interesting. You had some roosters walking around in here. They were skittish, so my presence scooted them out towards the grassy area over there. Another shot of it. So the hillsides there here in Tahiti definitely did not. This picture, I should say, does not do it justice at all to show just how majestic and huge and tall those mountains look. They look like just small little hills very close, but those looked very far away and very high up. So there's my flight, getting ready to head to Rangiroa. I learned how to say Rangiroa actually from the captain of these flights. I think before I was calling it Rangiroa, but there's kind of a difference between how some people call it and others do. So you gotta walk out, I guess you call it on the tarmac here. It's a common way of what I know of calling it, on the asphalt. It's pretty warm, it wasn't too bad considering how close I was to being, what I felt was close to being to the equator, but not too hot, not too bad. So getting on the plane, heading to Rangiroa from Tahiti. Sat under the engine, which I thought could be cool, but also probably kind of noisy. But actually, I don't know if it was the smoothness of the pilot, but it wasn't shaky at all. Let's go back to the.
Est placé devant vous. Nous vous invitons maintenant à la consulter. Merci de votre attention. Would you please read the safety card located with it?
So that's cool that I can. I'm using the Google Viewer from my phone, so it's really nice to be able to see that. I can kind of skim through this with all of you on the journey that I had over there. So pretty cool. That's I forget the name of this island, but it's right off of Tahiti when you take off, and then that's the first uh, atoll. It's kind of like an island, but it's kind of in a regular atoll, and flew over a couple. But this one actually probably looked the most like exotic. It's not your typical ring. It's got these cool little Mickey Mouse ears on the left, and then this half ring on the right. And it didn't have this prominent whole channel that you'll see when we fly over Rangiroa. Had a couple stops in the way, so it's definitely interesting to see the reef. Pretty rugged for sure in certain parts of it, and then in certain other parts, you would see like, hey, there's some pretty cool palm trees, a lot of coconuts. But it looks probably a little bit more like windy and stormy, but it was just a little bit cloudy for the time being, which was actually okay with me because it was, it makes it a little bit easier on the eyes. This was approaching the second stop, and it was pretty quick. You actually land on these for about 25 minutes, maybe like 35. It's actually pretty quick, and it was kind of nice just to be able to sit down. I don't know why, but I felt so tired, even though I had 2 5-hour flights to Tahiti, and this was another about 2.5 hours from Tahiti to Rangiroa. It's normally about a 50-minute flight or so, which I had the luxury of having on the way back. So I made the trip back seem very, very short. Just see the expanse, of this area. But when you fly it over enough, it seems like it's pretty close. Down below center there, you can see, those kind of, I don't want to say stereotypical, but, very tourist imagey attractions. That does look like a cool little paradise. You got the lodge in the front, and all these little speckled buildings around. So beautiful little paradise. Just don't forget your mosquito spray like I did. But it wasn't too bad on Rangiroa. It's definitely a lot worse than Tahiti. I just like looking below. It's like these little channels below. You can see there's even little houses down there. Now approaching Rangiroa. This is towards the north west side, and if you remember on my Rangiroa episode, we actually kind of did a little bit of clicking and panning and went around it really fast towards the end of the episode. Remember, I think we had pointed actually on the episode that there was a vineyard down below approaching the airport, but you have to go over the channel, which we are literally over right now. So nice little areas down there. It's definitely very rugged reef. You can see that it comes from the darker blue to the light blue, and then it just slams right onto the reef there. And the waves, you can tell, get very heavily dissipated. So you can see the waves there. It's not too big of showing, but you can see they're probably about like 2 to 4 to 5 foot. This is getting picked up from the airport, heading to the plage. So it's very French influenced because it's French Polynesia, so it's pretty interesting. But this is where I stayed in Rangiroa, and pretty humble, but hey, it was pretty good. Some other people were camped out in front in tents, so this is pretty nice. Um, it was so warm though, I just slept with the fan on and pretty much slept on top of the covers and had eventually a pillow brought in eventually. So that was the cool view looking the other way. Very nice to see little seashells down below. Um, kind of be careful. Some of them were sharp, but not too bad. You can avoid them as long as you keep the lookout. Some poor French guy, man, he hit his head really good on this. I'm kind of tall, so it was like right in my view. I mean, there was no missing it, but he was a little bit shorter and just totally clocked his head over to the right. And then a lot of people are camped out, underneath that tree to the far right, which is super majestic, mostly shaded through the time. So pretty cool campsite. So highly recommended. Another majestic spot. You can see the shells on the palm tree there. Said camping. So pretty cheap. I think my spot per night was after the conversion about 70 $70. I think they ended up giving me a little bit of a deal because I stayed there so long. I think it ended up being like 69 a night. I think camping is like between 15 to 30. So looking at towards the atoll side, I'm on. I want to say it's called Avaturu. So pretty calm. I was there for about 6 days, and most of I should say the half of the week was pretty calm. Half of the week was pretty calm, and so here we are. We remember the video. I was here. This is where I was at. Did a little walk around. Got to check out, kind of the one road. It's actually a really nice road. Pretty good concrete road. Nice little church here, and this is towards the pass, and a little island off to the right there, just in the middle of the screen. That's the pass, straight ahead, the water line. There was an event going on. So some surfers out here enjoying their time with. Some of the guys hit the reef down below, so it's kind of dangerous if you're either happen to get into one of those waves that take you that way, or you never know. So that's the if you're thinking about going barefoot, that's the worn down coral. So you can see the different colors there on the shore. The darker one's a little bit more worn down, and then the lighter stuff is a little bit more spiky, pointy. If you look at it really close, I mean, there's like just little hairline spikes coming out of them. So it's pretty good size waves in the distance. It's that one point there. Reefs are kind of a luxury like that where, typically, depending on the swell direction, of course, there might be multiple swells hitting at a time. So you could have different wave directions because they, come from different parts of the planet further out in the ocean. So you have kind of different swell directions, at any given time, which isn't too drastic, but it could be subtle. So it can, it's just something that, if you're experienced in the water, those are things that people kind of key into. And it's really stuff that seems that, people are always learning because, the world is constantly changing. And so you always have to pay attention, to the wind, the tide, and things like that. So that's a pass. It's funny having looked at this even here. It's actually pretty good on showing just how far across it is. I mean, when I was planning coming here, I thought, it's probably a good little paddle across. It's a good paddle across. I was expecting it to be like half as wide as it was. So it's kind of cool. The little walkways here. People are usually pretty darn friendly. They give you a nice, wave or hang loose or whatever. So pretty chill, pretty nice. Um, and walking back, this was actually, you know, well after sunset, fairly dark, and the camera light. I mean, the camera really picked up the light pretty good because it was, you know, getting dark. The street lights definitely helped. And let's see if I can go back to here.
Well, hello, my friends. Here we are. If you recall, on the corner here, church. It's getting a bit late, it's a little past sundown, so it's about 6:31.
So it's kind of cool to, relive that moment because a little bit after sundown, and then the moon was coming out, so that was cool. And then just to kind of have that surrealness of being there and tying things in with, I've never been on an island this far out in the ocean and this kind of different to me. So it was a cool experience. So it's kind of really neat to tie it in with the episode done previously as well. So still heading back to the plage. It's about a 30-minute walk. This was my first morning at Rangiroa. Just had to rush back to get my camera. Unfortunately, I forgot about the what I call them the European plugs, for the to power my cell phone, and so reception, non-existent. I had Wi-Fi, but that was extremely spotty and extremely weak. And then I had limited phone power, so I didn't get a lot of shots and video that I really wanted, but had some cool people in the area that were able to lend me their cell phone adapters. So that's looking east. The sun is rising. Southeast. This is looking pretty much the opposite direction, northwest. This is the water closets. You got a couple of them, a couple showers. It's nice, convenient that it's close, but inconvenient in the middle of the night because it's super loud. Walls were thin. You can pretty much hear everybody doing what they had to do. Nice little pan view. That's the pretty much the complete view of the atoll. Just looking southwest. Got up for a morning walk. Got to see a little bit of the jungle.
So up there on the left is the hospital, and this is pretty much the only street along here. Still don't quite know the name. All the locals are pretty amazingly nice. Usually greet you in French tongue. Of course, I don't understand, but it's really nice. Makes me want to learn French now. So this should give you an idea how wide the atoll is. Over there is the ocean. It looks kind of like a creek, but it's not. I don't know what these things are called, little channels that run across the atoll. This one's definitely very vegetated. Comes across, get the street bridge here, and then toward the other side, out towards the center of the atoll, and you can't even see the other side.
So that van vehicle that you saw with the truck bed is actually a really cool guy. He volunteered and gave me a ride. So he just said, "Hey, you need a ride?" And at least that's what he implied. It was very rough English. So cool little palm tree with a lot of coconuts. He was definitely guilty of setting up under these a couple times for shade because it's definitely super hot, and then I'd be like, Oh, right. Because there's a couple times where you'd actually hear the coconuts fall. It's actually one of my first 2 days there. I heard a coconut fall, and it's a good reminder. Cool little trail winding around the bend there.